There's a moment you never forget, a moment when something in the world feels wrong. For Myra, that moment came at 3:12 a.m., inside a silent office overlooking the harbor of one of Europe's busiest shipping hubs. A single cargo ship, the Selene Star, drifted 30 miles off its assigned route, with no explanation. It wasn't weather. It wasn't mechanical failure. It wasn't human error. It was something else. Something no one could quite see. Yet, what Myra didn't know that night was that this ship was only the first clue, the first thread in a story that stretched across oceans, through corporate boardrooms, intelligence agencies, and eventually into her own past. A story that would expose how invisible hands had been steering the world's supply chains for years, quietly, surgically, with a precision that could only come from people who understood the system better than the companies that ran it. In the global shipping industry, routes are lifelines. Hundreds of billions of dollars flow along these paths. Medicine, food, military equipment, entire economies riding on containers the size of small houses. And like any lifeline, it can be damaged, bent, or slowly poisoned. At first, Myra's job was simple. Find out why a handful of ships belonging to her company, one of the largest logistics firms on Earth, had started drifting into dead zones. Patches of open sea where satellite signals grew faint, records went fuzzy, and insurance claims became complicated. But as she traced the ship logs, something strange appeared. Routes had been subtly altered. Not wildly, not enough to draw panic, just a mile here, a mile there, barely noticeable, like someone nudging a chess piece a millimeter to the left. These changes, however small, cost the company millions. Cargo went missing. Containers arrived opened. Sometimes the contents were swapped entirely. Electronics replaced with bricks. Pharmaceuticals vanishing between ports. Insurance claims piling higher and higher. And the digital logs, perfect, immaculate, too immaculate. Myra brought this to her supervisor, a weathered logistics veteran who'd seen everything the ocean could throw at a person. He leaned back, stared at her report for a long time, then said quietly, "Don't pursue this any further. Not good work. Not, I'll look into it. Just a warning, heavy with meaning." That's when Myra realized what every investigator fears. This wasn't a mistake. It was a system. In the months that followed, she worked alone. Late nights, encrypted notes, making copies of everything before it could disappear, and gradually, a pattern emerged. Every route alteration, every diversion, every glitch, funneled through the same servers. Servers that shouldn't have been connected to the shipping network at all. When she dug deeper, she found traces of intrusion, but not the kind left by teenagers seeking thrills or criminals chasing money. This was cleaner, disciplined, professional. A shadow of an operation designed not only to steal cargo, but to manipulate global trade itself. Experts she quietly consulted offered the same unsettling conclusion. This had the fingerprint of intelligence work. Countries have long used shipping as leverage for sanctions, smuggling, covert transport. But this was new. This was digital occupation. Someone had infiltrated a modern shipping empire so deeply, so quietly, that they could redirect the world's flow of goods without ever stepping onto a dock. And then everything snapped into focus. Myra discovered a familiar signature in the code, a pattern she recognized, buried in a line of disguised commands. She had seen it before. Years ago, on a laptop belonging to her older brother. Her brother, who had disappeared from her life after joining a classified government program. Her brother, who called once a year from an untraceable number. Her brother, who always told her he worked in logistics, but never explained what kind. The realization hit her with the force of a freighter. Whoever hijacked this network, whoever manipulated billion-dollar routes and outmaneuvered governments, was someone who knew the system intimately. Someone who had access to methods only governments used. Someone she once shared a childhood with. She didn't know whether he was involved willingly, or whether he'd become a ghost in a machine he no longer controlled. The company, once the truth surfaced, responded exactly as you'd expect. They denied everything, launched an internal review, fired a handful of managers, blamed outdated software, but none of that explained the altered routes, the vanished cargo, the surgical precision, the signature in the code. To this day, no one knows who ultimately controlled the operation. No government ever claimed responsibility. No criminal syndicate stepped forward. And Myra never heard from her brother again. But something about this story stays with me. Maybe because it reveals how interconnected we've become, how fragile the systems are that we trust without thinking. Or maybe because it shows that the world's greatest secrets aren't kept in bunkers or vaults anymore. They're kept in servers, in code, in the invisible highways beneath our daily lives. And maybe, somewhere out there, someone is still nudging the world a millimeter at a time, waiting for us to note.
Case closed on this chapter, but the world is full of unsolved questions. Join the investigation by subscribing now.